Hey everyone, it's Joe Bartel from RotoWire here, going over the Underdog Best Ball tournament that we'll be doing. I think it's Bestball Mania, right? 20, well, going to be the $25 entry fee for this, but excited this. We got to do the DraftKings one a couple weeks ago. Lots of fun to be able to participate in these best ball opportunities, and of course, Underdog being one of our favorite sponsors out there, working alongside them. I want to make sure I get all the social media stuff out there as of right now, but just a few teams left to go ahead and do this. This is part of the 4 live drafts in 4 days that I had to do. You could also find on the RotoWire Fantasy Football YouTube channel. I did the Beat Joe Bartel Online Championship for the NFFC. Ton of fun doing a write-up on that I believe will be in the RotoWire.com site here over the next day or two. Some decisions were made in terms of the Tyreek Hill selection. I took Jordan Addison in the 6th round, ended up getting him in round 11 or 12 in a super flex draft later. Of course, that was before the announcement of the suspension for 3 games right now. I think that gets bumped down to 2 for Jordan Addison. So lots to discuss, and I'm very curious. This is a perfect time to go ahead and look over what the ADP is going to be with a number of these guys injured, missing time in training camp. I would argue that this is the best time to go ahead and do a best ball draft right now, as opposed to waiting a couple weeks when more things are finalized. People are going to go the other way with that. Well, I don't know if Justin Jefferson will be healthy, or Khalil Shakir, or I don't know how long Rashee Rice will be suspended. The ADP is going to end up kind of crystallizing well before that point, and there are you will not see major value inflections like you're going to see, I think, over the next week and a half at any other point during draft season. So if you're interested in doing best ball, make sure you log on to Underdog. Go ahead and there's a number of different competitions going out there right now. Go ahead and check those out. So excited to dive into it. Not excited necessarily for pick 11. Not ideal in terms of my I want spot that I really want, but we'll get into that here with pick number 1 going off. I want to make sure we get this all set from a social media perspective first. Of course, I would assume Jamar Chase off the board number 1. Makes entire sense to me. That would be what you expect. And I would imagine as you guys see the board right now, you'll be able to watch if they do end up completing the Joe Burrow T. Higgins stack, which I will frequently see on Underdog. That really is one of the only places that a stack is available to do. I don't think you can do that on any other platform as well. And like the NFFC or some of these redraft places, the ADP is different enough for Joe Burrow and T. Higgins where that typically does not happen. So watching this first round unfold, you can go ahead and see that as I go ahead and tweet this out real quick. All right. All set there. Thanks, everyone, for the delay. I'm up in here in 3 picks. Want to make sure that I'm at least mildly prepared for what this will look like. I typically have a certain player that I want to select here. I would imagine it's pretty easy to have that discussion. Nobody's like going to be sniping me on this stuff. But often you'll see Ashton Genty fall to this selection. We'll see if that occurs with just 2 more picks to go. But if not, you're at a really good spot. I believe this year there's at least 16 first-round selections available. There you go. Genty does end up making it back to me. Now, there is a bit of a gamesmanship because you look at the running backs also around Devon Achane, Derrick Henry, and then receivers, Nico Collins, Brian Thomas. Theoretically, one of them is gone. In this case, I think it's going to be very obvious. I'll take Ashton Genty every time. And then as long as there's no errors, yeah. And then we'll be able to get one of these receivers I like a lot back too. So Devon Achane, Derrick Henry, I'm not really concerned about Genty necessarily outproducing them. I think Derrick Henry on a season-to-season basis, at least this season, I think Derrick Henry probably outscores Ashton Genty. Just going to make my other selection real quick, which is Drake London. Yeah, I think Derrick Henry probably does outscore Ashton Genty this year, but Genty, especially in like a half-point PPR setting, probably doesn't benefit the same way Derrick Henry would, where you think Derrick Henry would score a lot of touchdowns, the less of the receiving workload matters. I think Genty, if he ends up getting that rookie year Bijan Robinson mark, which was about 1,300 total yards, ended up getting 40, 45 catches, that you'll be totally fine. So there's a safety net part of this with Genty. I think the Raiders offense won't be all that good this year, but Genty might actually be. And again, Genty over Derrick Henry might look dumb in hindsight as we go on, but I will often take Genty with the upside of the opportunities as a rookie and what he can do to the offense over Derrick Henry necessarily. So other selection being Drake London. You'll see that on the board right now. Drake London over Brian Thomas, Drake London also over Nico Collins often for me. And I do stand by on a 17 game sample. I think Drake London is going to be the guy that outscores a lot of these receivers. Certainly over AJ Brown, I'll take Drake London. And if you get into that Lab McConkey, Tyreek Hill range, which you'll see sometimes Drake London fall past that, no way. I don't mind taking Drake London in the first round, knowing then if I want to go receiver, I will get one combination of Malik Neighbors, Amon-Ra St. Brown, or Nico Collins coming back. I don't really feel like those three are all that different, but I like London more than them. So I think what might end up happening for me if I do later redrafts throughout the season is just get my guy, I think in this case, Drake London, and then be happy with whatever receiver comes back of that trio, Nico Collins, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and then, of course, Brian Thomas too. So not totally surprised with how this is going thus far, although I would have expected team number one to possibly consider T. Higgins. We'll have to see if they end up getting Joe Burrow. You're going to have the quarterback run right now with Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen. I typically don't take a quarterback early. I don't think that I'll change much with the massive prize pool on the line. And I would agree. One of the comments says, I saw Burrow, Chase, and Higgins on the same team. Raider stack underrated. So I'll disagree with that, Joe, although I like the namesake, Joe and Joe for sure. I don't really want to get much of the Raiders offense, but I do think you'll see Burrow, Chase, and Higgins specifically on Underdog frequently. That is a combo that happens. All right, we got 16 seconds left to make our pick here. I typically will be drafting, and I think I'll go ahead and do that right here, unless certain what will happen on the way back, is Mike Evans. Now, maybe there's some gamesmanship to assume that two running backs would go. I don't think they will. I don't necessarily have a personal preference over Kyron Williams necessarily, which would be the other one. And then Breece Hall would be the other one that comes back. So in my mind, I don't know. Like a Breece Hall or Kyron Williams, that's not too different. Full point PPR would probably lean towards Breece Hall. I think in half point PPR, it's likely Kyron Williams, but we'll go ahead and make that selection right now. I never want to get caught with my pants down in Underdog and not have the running backs, but typically if you're picking in the back end of the first round, that's the better spot to accumulate depth early on with running backs. You'll likely see a Caleb Johnson or RJ Harvey, James Conner. They will fall to you. And fall is not the right. It's just where the ADP ends up kind of winding up from a snake perspective is getting there. So I'm fine taking Breece Hall and getting the receiver I like more so in Mike Evans as opposed to Rashee Rice, who you are anticipating some sort of suspension kind of factoring into this. You'll see the other quarterback there, Jalen Hurts. So that's now 4 off the board. Jaden Daniels being 3. We'll see. If Burrow comes back to 5, typically that's what the team number 1 does. If you have Jamar Chase, wouldn't be surprised at all if that's the case. But I don't really like building rosters in best ball in particular where I'm taking an elite quarterback. NFFC, redraft leagues, one and done sort of thing, that's different. We have the RotoWire Stake League coming up, which is, at least here in the office at RotoWire, by far the most important thing from a teasing one another, we'll use that phrase correctly, teasing one another perspective, maybe talking some swear word, right, that kind of thing. But also financially, the stakes on the line for what the RotoWire Stake League is typically like $400 to $500 on the line. I will go get an elite quarterback every time there. Now, that format prioritizes the Russian quarterbacks just a little bit more than an Underdog Best Ball will, but there are some leagues where it makes complete sense to know every single week you are going to get an advantage at the quarterback position. I have confidence, and we'll see if it's executed. God, I've had far too much unfound confidence in my draft strategy lately. I have confidence that I can build a roster with 2 or 3 quarterbacks that will, on a week-to-week basis, at least be close or comparable to what the Josh Allens, Jaden Daniels can do. We'll, again, see if that gets executed correctly, but that's kind of where I'm at. So happy to see a guy like DJ Moore fall to that point. DK Metcalf, I love DK Metcalf this year, but I think Moore is a better value point. So Terry McLaurin, you've seen his ADP fall a little bit now with the contract part of things too. And looking at the other receivers, it's that range, and I think it's mid 4th round to late 4th round that I typically don't like. So I'm looking at this right now. Ted McMillan, Xavier Worthy, George Pickens I'm okay with, Cortland Sutton, okay, Jamison Williams as well too, and then Jalen Waddle. If you told me any one of those guys is a top 10 fantasy receiver by the end of the year, I'd be like, yeah, probably makes sense. But I don't want to guess it. And I think all of them more realistically are kind of like wide receiver 2s or 3s on your team. So it's an uninteresting spot to me in relation to Breece Hall, who just last year was being drafted top 5 overall. And I think the fall off from that was just an injury related thing. Now, if I can't catch up with receiver, and we'll have to see with the picks that are remaining. Again, talk about the falling running backs. Well, there you go. You have James Conner, Trayvon Henderson, RJ Harvey that are left. That's the uncomfortable spot to be in right now when you're like, oh, it's that now I have to go ahead and get a wide receiver 3 that I might not necessarily have liked. In this case, it's very obvious to me. I'll take Chris Olave every time. I'm not necessarily worried about the Tyler Shuck, Spencer Rattler combo, although I probably should be. And then we can follow up with another, I would assume, receiver pairing with this next pick. Might be different as opposed to what Team 12 does, but I feel pretty good with what we could get from a receiver perspective here. And again, we'll see if Patrick Mahomes. I was not sure who it was. Okay, so I will gladly take Roma Dunze as well too. So for everyone, and you'll get to see this momentarily, but the receivers that would have been in this range, it's Olave, Dunze, and then Deebo Samuel, Jawan Jennings, Jordan Addison, suspension, Ricky Pearsall, Jerry Jeudy, Jacoby Myers, Stephon Diggs. I like Stephon Diggs a lot. If I get Stephon Diggs to come back to me later, I'm happy to do that. But in my mind, and there you go, see Stephon Diggs going off the next pick, you're getting the upside scenario of Olave returning to form and being healthy. If Olave is out there, I think he's very conventionally wide receiver 2. And then best case scenario, Odunze also operates in that same capacity, but as a wide receiver 4, half-point PPR league, probably is the best touchdown threat on that offense. I don't mind going on in the direction. Again, looking at the receivers in this same spot, Deebo injured, Jawan Jennings injured, Ricky Pearsall, relative concerns, Stephon Diggs injured and does cocaine. Who cares? I don't know. Jordan Addison suspended, Jerry Jeudy. I have reservations, but the Browns offense looks like it really is a tier drop. And I like Jacoby Myers in full point PPR leagues, underdog, half point PPR. So just keep that in mind. Like, as much as it'd be easy to say, hey, let's get more running back depth. I like these fantasy running backs more. David Montgomery, James Conner, Trayvon Henderson, RJ Harvey. Being sharp about where the tiers drop for you is a really critical thing. And I would encourage you guys to test this theory out on the RotoWire Fantasy Football app. You can go ahead and download that for free if you have a login, and you can just practice mock draft strategy. I kid you not, it's actually one of the fun things to do now. I get to do this at the office, and nobody looks over at me and looks at me in disgust for doing mock drafts. It's encouraged to go ahead and go through that process. But how to identify what you believe are the correct tiers is not really a Joe Bartel or Jim Coventry or whatever expert tells you. You have to put that practice to test. And I think specifically when the fantasy experts will tell you draft strategy-wise, have discipline on not taking a quarterback, or if you really want Bowers or McBride, the tight end position, it'll go away. Like, it's much easier to hear that, and another thing entirely to see it unfold. And I think our mock draft tool does a really good job with doing that. So RotoWire Fantasy Football app, you go ahead and download that. It is free without a subscription needed. You just need a login to go ahead and participate in it. So coming up on my selection here, I think momentarily, if I'm tracking things correctly, just a couple of picks. Guys still on the board right now: Joe Mixon, Chris Godwin, again, another injured player, Tony Pollard, Josh Downs, Aaron Jones, Khalil Shakir. We're narrowly approaching what I think will be an interesting landing spot for the Joe Mixon range of things in best ball. In redraft, there's zero direction or any way that I'd choose Joe Mixon for my leagues, but you could make an argument that with the information we have today, Nick Chubb not looking particularly healthy, at least according to the head coach for the Texans, Dameon Pierce, Woody Marks is a pass-catching guy. If and when Joe Mixon comes back, he's going to be clearly the guy for that offense. I don't want to take that risk in redraft. I think there's a lot of guys, like, again, look at the same spot, Tony Pollard and Aaron Jones. Now I'm mixing one off the board, but the conversation nevertheless, that's a different spot for me to be in best ball where I can make up for that, or even get Nick Chubb, for example, a little bit later in the draft. So I don't know what the correct approach is necessarily, but I know it's one of those where I'm going to be typically avoiding Joe Mixon in redraft and really only taking him in best ball, where again you see him as now like a mid to late 7th round pick. So my pick coming up here momentarily, again 15 seconds as we're going through in the Underdog timer. You can also do 8-hour drafts for these Bestball Minis and other ones as well too. I need the fix right now, so that's why we're doing one of these live drafts. But it is one of the I don't mind necessarily doing some of those waiting longer ones, especially early in best ball season. So I made my pick with TJ Hawkinson. That's my call every single time. Back end of the if I get pick 11, I can almost assure myself that I'm going to go ahead and get a TJ Hawkinson to some effect, and of course end up landing that. I probably could have been more deliberate taking one of these receivers instead but Hawkinson would be my preferred target. Again, I guess I ended up working out just right. I would have liked to see this turn back here. So basically, you take Hawkinson as not my preferred. Oops, I want to make sure I get this pulled up correctly on the screen itself. You take Hawkinson as it's going through right now, and then hope that you get a Chris Godwin to come back to you. And of course, he ended up doing that, so that's great. I'll get the screen to pull up correctly in just a second. Hold on, everyone. I'll not talk through everything too much. Where is this? There it is. Okay, got it pulled up. All right, scrolling down so everyone can kind of see now. We'll go through the team at the end of this draft, but that should cover us for a few more rounds until I stupidly forget where that went again. All right, and then go back to our tab here. Oh, don't really need that right now. No Apple Music, thank you. Perfect. All right, we got this set. All right, so back to what I was saying. The strategy for this would be I like TJ Hawkinson more than any other tight end. Of course, Travis Kelce. That was a good choice by me because Travis Kelce goes at that point. And then I don't mind Josh Downs or Chris Godwin or Khalil Shakir one more than the other. But if I want my tight end first, and I think Hawkinson is a dramatic difference than Kelce, take Hawkinson and then assume you're going to get one of these receivers back. And of course I did. I got my preferred target in Chris Godwin. And again, I don't know necessarily if Chris Godwin is back week 1, but I do feel confident that at some point in the season, he is going to be in a good spot to be a massive difference maker. I mean, remember last year, Godwin was like wide receiver 2 entering week 7 and had a nasty ankle injury. There has, I think, been reports saying that he had to have an additional surgery that we were not aware of, which is partly why we've seen this fall down a little bit. But we'll have to kind of monitor. Now, I don't know if this matters or if it unfolds this way, but I did take Mike Evans. I have Chris Godwin conventionally in best ball. You would like to then stack that with Baker Mayfield. In fact, if I had wanted to go Chris Godwin, a lot of people would say take Chris Godwin at my pick where I went with Hawkinson and then go Baker Mayfield. I don't know if I necessarily want to. Now Baker goes off. I thought there might be an opportunity for him to fall. In my mind, you can get the quarterback production without Baker Mayfield, but especially in these best ball massive tournaments where there's so much money on the line, there's a degree of variance that you probably need to have in your lineups. And not that you should be fading the quarterback for the 2 receivers you're drafting, but I don't mind the premise of saying I'm going to get a different quarterback variation that in the worst case scenario carries me through. Now, you would do this theoretically more with volume as opposed to this one-off that you're watching me stream for now. I don't necessarily have a lot of volume in this contest, but I have sort of executed this strategy in a few other ones too. So maybe the faux pas there that I didn't end up taking Baker Mayfield knowing I wanted Chris Godwin. And if I would have taken Chris Godwin early, would the person have then been tipped off? Well, he's Mahomes. So I probably messed that one up a little bit, but I really don't mind saying I'm getting 2 good receivers in the case of Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. And if I end up getting a naked version of the Buccaneers like I did here, that's okay. I'm okay in that sort of spot. So we'll see what ends up coming back to me here with only a few picks left before my selection in the 9th round. We'll circle back to the team in just a little bit. Again, for Underdog, I believe, and this is partially why I was fine with it, I get Justin Fields, who I'm very happy to get in best ball. And that was quarterback 12. I believe there's still Caleb Williams on the board. There's Drake May. There's Jared Goff. And then McCarthy, Herbert, everything else. So that was quarterback 12 of that group. Only have 2 running backs. That does matter a little bit to me. We're going to have to go ahead and try to fix that a little bit more, even though I feel good enough about the 2 that I have in Ashton Genty and Breece Hall. And conventionally, you go with those 5 receivers, or at least you've seen a lot of tournament lineups go ahead and do something like that. Running backs available are Cam Skadaboo, Tajay Spears, Ramondre Stevenson, and then Ray Davis. I think the right call is probably Skadaboo, even though I'm not really drafting a whole lot of him, with the idea that he'll get some more volume out of this backfield than anybody else. But we'll probably be chasing that a little bit more. The bye week issue, I'm not so worried about. 8, 9, and then Skadaboo at 14. So Uh, feeling okay enough about how this is going. Liking that I did get Fields, at least from a quarterback perspective. Very curious to see what ends up coming back as we go on. Evan Ingram still on the board, top available right now. Evan Ingram, Tyler Warren, Rashad Bateman, and Drake May. I think in hindsight, if you would have told me I could get Baker Mayfield and Chris Godwin and then get an Evan Ingram and Justin Fields, or Evan Ingram and Cam Skadaboo on the way back, that's a good spot to be. Like, that would have been a better sort of build for this. Never know how it'll work in a half-point PPR setting. I think TJ Hawkinson scores more touchdowns, and frankly, I think Hawkinson stays healthier. So that's sort of how I look at this scenario again. Didn't correctly get it with Baker Mayfield, hoping that he comes back, but we'll see that every once in a while. And then, of course, team number 12 does take a quarterback in Caleb Williams a little bit later on, maybe trying to block an Adunze stack that he thought I was building. Wasn't really of interest to me and didn't go that direction. So looking at the other receivers, Keenan Allen, this would be your first Keenan Allen sighting post-Chargers trade, at least on the RotoWire network. Totally fine with that landing spot. And I also don't think that affects Lab McConkey's value as well. Like, I think people are going to be incorrectly or erroneously saying, oh, well, Keenan Allen's back, that's going to cut into Lab McConkey's workload. No, completely disagree. A, if you think Keenan Allen stays healthy all year, good. I got a great bridge to sell to you in Brooklyn. B, the passing game desperately needs an additional guy that is reliable in Los Angeles. And currently it's Jalen Reagor or Keandre Lambert-Smith or Trey Harris. None of those guys were going to do that. It was going to be Lab McConkey again solely as the dude, and maybe that projection changes somewhat, but I would almost say the ceiling of the passing game for the Chargers raises as opposed to McConkey loses value. Like, maybe, especially if Najee Harris is going to be missing time, and who knows with this superficial eye injury that requires Najee Harris to just walk laps like he's in grade school trying to avoid doing the pull-up test or whatever. Yeah, I'm of the belief that the Chargers offense by necessity will have to pass more than they did last season. And maybe they just win more football games, therefore the defense plays better and they can be a bit more run-oriented. But the personnel is not set up, at least if Najee Harris is going to miss time or whatever this is, to be the same level of rushing offense that they were last year. But if you have Keenan Allen and Trey Harris and Keandre Lambert-Smith, that's a different passing offense than what they had personnel-wise last year. So a couple more picks to go before I'm back on the clock. Don't want to make another mistake, or at least kind of following along. A lot of quarterbacks here left. Jared Goff, Jordan Love, CJ Stroud as well too. And then you'll have a bit of the running backs that I get left over at this point. There's a few that I actually like, and I don't mind going this direction. So we'll take our preferred quarterback first. Actually, we're not going to, because team number 2 has a quarterback instead. So Ray Davis just went off the board. That's fine. Last running back that I would rather like to have here is Javonte Williams. And I will assume that I'm going to get at least one quarterback that I like coming back. Preferably at least the one I would like. Judkins going there was one I was considering. I thankfully have built the roster where I don't have to have that necessarily work out. And then Jordan Love going to be my selection here. Dylan Sampson and Trey Benson are on the list among running backs, just so you guys kind of know what I'm talking over or thinking through. I would have preferred Trey Benson in most other builds. In this idea with Ashton Genty and Breece Hall, I have 2 stalwart running backs. Ended up going a little bit heavier at receiver, which is typically what you do when you know the receiver position is later in drafts, as I believe it is. But I think Trey Benson really has a massive upside or boom potential. And if I were to go, let's just say James Cook is my running back 1, and then I get a James Conner, ironically enough, or an Aaron Jones, wait about a round or 2 later to get my running back 2. That is the scenario where I'll then load up on Ray Davis, Trey Benson, if I can get a DJ Giddens or even like a Tank Bigsby, who I don't buy into the hype of Jacksonville's stuff, but there are some really good beat reporters saying enough positive things that you have to at least monitor it too. So like that's the scenario where a Trey Benson, Ray Davis, Tank Bigsby that I'll be trying to go after too. So that's one of those to sort of keep in mind and the direction I ended up going at running back with Javonte Williams, which is a safer pick. If he ends up starting all year, wouldn't be shocked at all. Yeah, we're okay with that, but you have to do that when you're saying it's going to be maybe a 6 running back total roster as opposed to 7 or even 8, which I've done. I didn't like, but it was one of those testing kind of things. So want to make sure I'm responding to all my loyal fans. Kidding, there's just some text here. But going through, you can see the board right now. I'll scroll down a little bit further. Trey Benson fell a bit further than I thought. But yes, there you go. So I'll make sure I scroll up a little bit further. Again, you guys can now see 18 rounds for Underdog. I think a few other platforms have it a little bit longer from a best ball perspective, but I am a huge fan of the Underdog best ball platform itself, and been having a lot of fun doing the drafts on here. So thanks everyone for listening right now. I'm watching along. We'll go through a few more rounds of these at the moment. We have a hard out at I guess it'd be 4:25 Eastern. So if that hits before we get to the draft, which I don't think it will, just understand, you'll miss out on my crazy last selection. Just kidding, it's not that big of a deal. So we'll go ahead and get the actual ADP. I just want to go over for everyone what you're looking at right now as picks are flying off the board. Still left Kyle Williams. Michael Penix, probably not what I would choose to do when I don't need another quarterback yet. Quentin Johnston, Najee Harris, Rashad White, Tua, Xavier Legette, Isaac Guerendo, Bryce Young, and then Cam Ward, Brenton Strange, Isaiah Likely. So pretty bleak at receiver outside of a few other guys that I don't mind. But one of those things certainly where you would ideally like to have one more, and I don't think that's what's going to end up happening with the way this run has been going at quarterback and everything else like that. So we'll get everyone last of the queue again right now is Quentin Johnston with a few more picks yet to go. I can tell you right now, I'm not super in on Quentin Johnston, given I was forgetting him more or less talking about the Chargers offense. Some positive talk about Rashad White right now. Don't know what to buy about that. I do think Sean Tucker will be a larger factor in that offense. I like Bucky Irving, so I think by default, Rashad White is a fade. And yet if Rashad White were to get traded or surprisingly cut, he immediately goes to a better situation than what I think will happen in Tampa Bay. So that's partly on my mind in a best ball format. We don't have to chase that. That's not necessarily of value to us per se, but just kind of clocking that as well too. We're approaching the point where I probably need to be considering Braylon Allen, even though I don't like him a lot, as a backup to Breece Hall and that offense. I don't know if I have to take him necessarily, because you have Guerendo and Algier and Nick Chubb in that group. And again, receiver. So I'm going to start pushing up a few guys that I like a decent amount to give me some flexibility to draft later some running backs that I think will often fall. Like I have a preference the way I want certain amount of receivers here. I will draft them early in best balls, and then I'll go ahead and get running backs I don't mind sort of throwing my hands up and saying, yeah, this guy could make a difference. So we'll get our last running back, again, maybe a bit of a push up from an ADP with Jerome Ford. And that allows me, I think, the ability to not have to be concerned with getting the backup to Breece Hall, which is Braylon Allen more conventionally. So we'll see how this ends up going out. Maybe Braylon Allen comes back. I doubt it. But that I don't need to go with another receiver until one of the last picks in the draft was partially why you go ahead and take a Deontay Thornton, who I think at best ball is one of those that I'll gladly take a round or two higher at the current spot. Ideally, you wait all the way until he comes back. Maybe that ends up happening. We've heard a lot of reports from Las Vegas that it's not just that's not just Brock Bowers and Jacoby Myers, but that you're going to see Trey Tucker very conventionally as wide receiver 2 for that team. Great. In best ball, though, if you get an 80-yard touchdown, that's probably starting for your team. And I don't think Trey Tucker can do that all the time. A bit more of a gadget player, which is truth, but we have enough receivers right now where I'm kind of protected. I like going for the home run shots. So nearing the end of round 14, I'm going to make sure I get my queue set with a few of my preferred favorites. Again, as I'm talking live right now, it's a little bit easier to sort through what you want to do. I'm sorry, it's harder to sort through, clearly, because I can't even talk about what I want to do. And then I don't know if I have to have a quarterback, but we'll at least like a few here so that if we have to have a conversation about them, we can as well. And then running back is a hodgepodge of dudes. So again, 18-round draft. I think you'll typically see the experts flip-flop between 7 running backs, 6 receivers, or 6 running backs, 7 receivers. And then that would leave 5 selections if I'm doing the math correctly. And either it would be 3 quarterbacks with your lottery ticket of Anthony Richardson or Jackson Dart, something like that during the fantasy playoffs, or more conventionally, you'll see 3 tight ends. Now, if you take a Bowers or McBride early, you probably shouldn't be going ahead and doing that. Well, there you go. I mean, I talked about Anthony Richardson. Mason Taylor went off despite all of the injuries. All the guys that had already set in my queue are like way going high above their ADP. So maybe have affected things with the Deontay Thornton selection, where people are going to go get their guys. So fair enough. I have a ton of exposure to Mason Taylor. I thought for sure with the high ankle sprain that nobody's taking Mason Taylor, and he's been my pocket play as a tight end too. But that will not be the case, at least in this draft, which is very funny. So couple more picks to go before my selection. I feel like I got at least one in mind right now. I should probably look at one more receiver with at least one more receiver right now. And then the running backs, again, typically people I find drafting very late and taking some dart throws with the overall running backs. I had thought about Anthony Richardson. He was in the queue, didn't end up going that direction, obviously, or probably wouldn't have even if he fell to this point, because the two that I have right now, Justin Fields and Jordan Love, that's going to be a good enough combo. That's actually my preferred combo if I could wait on quarterback. So Jonnu Smith, first tight end off the board for this part of things. Diami Brown, another receiver that I was actually looking at, ends up going a little bit earlier too. So I think the answer is just take a receiver here. And that was the one, Adam Thielen. That's where I was going to go. So back to the drawing board, perhaps. We'll see. It's brutal. I don't really like a lot of the receivers here, but more importantly, it's hard to really end up liking a lot more. So I think you have to, by default, just go ahead and take one of these guys. And of the available, considering Jack Besh, Michael Wilson, Jalen Knoll, DeAndre Hopkins, Darius Slayton, why don't we just go ahead and take another? I don't know. Boy, this is not a fun spot to be. We'll take the not attractive option of Michael Wilson, but one that, I don't know, gives you a safety net of something. Like it. What I don't want to run into scenarios, I have an otherwise great team. Maybe one of these guys is hurt for 1 week, and I don't have a receiver that plays at all. If Michael Wilson can get me 8 points, maybe I'm not in the running anyway. Maybe that's the bad way of thinking about things, but I don't mind the opportunity for Michael Wilson's 8 points as opposed to anything else. So that will do it for me in receivers at least. We'll get at least one more running back coming back. So it'll be pick 16. No, it'll be pick 17 and then 18. So 2 more to go. Good enough. I'm feeling okay. Let's not jinx things too much. Feeling okay with the roster as it stands. I have done worse. For you guys watching along, you've probably seen it, whether on my Twitter, JB Fantasy Sports, on the RotoWire Fantasy Football YouTube channel. You've probably seen me make worse selections and worse total rosters. So I'm okay about what this is right now. And again, making sure I'm scrolling down. This is the end of the page as well. So 18-round draft. Again, thanks everyone for tuning in. Close to 400 people right now. Jerry asks, and oops, I should probably make sure I lock this in. Jerry asks, what's your favorite late round running back? Again, I'm not assuming people are drafting in this same one that I'm in. I like DJ Giddens. I like Taj Brooks. I don't mind the scenario of getting even like a Kyle Manung guy as well, too, for the Bears, from what we've heard. And then I think Brashard Smith, to a certain extent, is one that I'm interested in from the Chiefs as well. It's possible that all three will be available at my selection, and at the turn, I could end up going that. So DJ Giddens is probably the right answer. I think very clearly he's the backup running back to Jonathan Taylor. Very clearly he's going to be the pass-catching running back in that offense. To what degree they use a pass catcher, I don't know. I mean, Tyler Goodson would have been that role last year. Goodson's just a jag, in my opinion. But I would imagine DJ Giddens probably plays a little bit because Jonathan Taylor's been banged up. And in that case, Giddens will be totally fine. I have a lot of exposure to Devin Neal in drafts right now. Not going that route anymore with all the different signings they've made, and if Devin Neal ends up being healthy at all for that. And frankly, Kendrick Miller is also a pretty good running back too. So that's often my favorite late round running back. I have done a bunch of best balls, probably close to 25, which I know in the best ball grand scheme of things isn't a lot, where Nick Chubb was effectively free. And that would have been my answer as well too, Jerry. But prior to the signing of the Texans, Nick Chubb was probably one of my favorites overall. I thought Nick Chubb would go to the Bears, didn't. And I kind of wonder if that's because I really don't even understand. I assume Nick Chubb's camp thought Joe Mixon would not play a decent amount, and therefore you could go ahead and get a potential starting spot. But, clearly I was mistaken with, I don't know. Maybe that's why he would sign with the Texans. That he thought Joe Mixon's going to be out for X duration of time. So we'll have to see. It hasn't been positive reports for Nick Chubb, so maybe my 30 or 40% exposure is not going to be a great answer anyway for that. So last round coming up here: Jarquez Hunter, Keaton Mitchell, Marshawn Lloyd, Blake Corum, Jordan James, like those really aren't of interest to me among running backs, and the receivers not so much either. I don't mind Isaac Tesla a little bit, but I think at this point you just typically will go with a tight end selection. We'll make one more boring one. Actually, you know what is? Yeah, okay, we'll go Darren Waller. Or we'll go Darius Slayton because I didn't end up making the pick in time, which is also fine. So fine with the Darius Slayton as the last round selection as my timer runs out. That I only had one pick timed out on me is a absolute win. I'm very excited that it was only that one too, and waffling between what happens at the end. Of course, Darren Waller, very next selection for that. That's fine too. So appreciate you everyone following along. Of course, if you have any questions for me from a best ball perspective, you can reach out to me on JB Fantasy Sports on Twitter. I do the Sirius XM show on Fridays from, I think it's, it would have been it would be 12 to 2 Eastern on channel 87. And then on Sundays as well, 10 to noon, we also do Angel Fire Radio where I'm hosting that show as well. Been a lot of fun doing that show on Sundays, so lots of different ways to find me. And stay tuned to the RotoWire Fantasy Football YouTube channel if you're watching here live or watching my social media. Tons more to come. I'll be at the Fantasy Expo later this weekend. Going to be hopefully collaborating with every one of your favorite fantasy experts out there. My first time going to the Expo. Can't wait for that too. So appreciate everyone kind of tuning along, watching along with me here. And if nothing else, go ahead and check out Underdog. Get to participating in some of these best balls and use our RotoWire mock draft tool to go ahead and get you set for your expert drafts as well too. Expert family and friends drafts, right? That's how you go. So appreciate everyone listening, following along, and best of luck in your drafts.